Welcome, foolish mortals, to Count Gauntly's Horrors from the Public Domain. I am your host, Count Simon Gauntly, and each episode I'll be leading you on a journey through the history of film. Specifically, we'll be exploring that eldritch abyss known as the public domain. These are films forgotten by time or abandoned by their creators. The strange, the horrifying, the poorly and cheaply produced. All of these are the purviews of the public domain. So what are we waiting for? Come, join me in my crypt. It's bigger on the inside. Come, join me.
There lived a man so long ago, Count Gauntly was his name. His horror host abilities had brought him wide acclaim. The people flocked from miles around each Gauntly movie night, not knowing that the films he showed infringed on copyright. Upon discovering this fact and learning it was true, an angry mob of lawyers formed with pitchforks, torches too. They tracked the Count and sought to stop his movie hosting ways, and torches blazing put an end to Gauntly's earthly days. But our man was too resilient to let death be the last word. He stirred, sat up upon his slab and vowed he must be heard. So he stocked his tomb with gadgets from the local studio, intent on showing movies on an awesome TV show. But he had to find a legal way, so Gauntly racked his brain. 'Twas then he learned of something called the public domain. Now here he is, the time has come, his dreams are coming true. Count Gauntly's here to share a film in hopes that you won't sue.
Oh, hello, and welcome once again to Count Gauntly's Horrors from the Public Domain. I've taken to the sea, as you can see, because I needed to be at one with my thoughts. The last year and change has been all about social distancing, and of course Gauntly was an expert on that long before the current pandemic. So I've surrounded myself with the ocean. Water everywhere, and lots of time to think. Last month's episode was an iceberg video about taking a deep dive into the Gauntly franchise and exploring some franchise factoids that only the most dedicated fans would know. In that same spirit, I've chosen to take a deep dive inward and really think about what my priorities will be as we near episode 100 and what things I most want to cram into the handful of episodes ahead. So now is the time that I have devoted to diving into my own soul.
Oh. I couldn't help hearing you about taking a deep dive into your own soul.
That was the plan, yes, sir.
I'm a deep sea diver, and I invite you to take a deep dive into the sea. I promise you, you'll be amazed at what you see. You'll learn so much about the sea as well as yourself. Follow me.
Oh, how could I say no to that? A physical deep dive to accompany my metaphorical one, inward. And hey, we might make some good TV out of this yet. So, I'll just put my legs over to the side here. Follow me.
Nancy and Roger are taking a boat trip today with their parents from Albany down to New York. Here is the name of the boat, the Alexander Hamilton. People are still coming up the gangplank, but it is almost time to start. It is time to start. As Roger and Nancy look on, men are taking away the gangplank. Next, they see this man loosening a large rope which held the boat fast to the pier. Our boat's big wheels churn the water as we back away from the pier. We back slowly out into the river, and our boat ride has started down the mighty Hudson. Nancy and Roger will see many ways by which people use the river. This large ship does not carry passengers. It is being loaded with lumber and other heavy freight. Across the river, we see a great hole in the ground. It is a rock quarry where people dig out stone. Because the quarry is near the Hudson River, the stones are usually put on barges like these, which carry them down the stream. The barges are fastened by a long rope to a strong little tugboat which pulls them along. Nancy and Roger and all the other passengers are enjoying the smooth glide of the boat through the water. This lighthouse is one way in which a boat trip is made safe. It marks a shallow spot so boats can steer away from it. And here is another way that boat trips are made safe. Our boat is carrying many small boats on it, a whole row of lifeboats on each side. The lifeboats are broad and solid. They have oars for rowing and airtight tanks to keep them from sinking. Each of them will hold 20 people. Here's another boat just like the one on which Roger and Nancy are riding. It too has many people on it, but they are going up the river for their boat trip. This boat is the Hendrick Hudson, named after the man who discovered the river. Inside this pilot house is the captain of our boat.
Oh, look, there's the captain. Let's go see what he's doing.
Well, well. How do you do? Come right in.
That's the steering wheel, isn't it?
Yes, when I turn it this way, it makes the boat go to the right. And this way turns the boat to the left.
What's this?
That's to signal to the engineer.
The engineer? Where is he?
Down below in the engine room.
Thanks, Captain. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Our boat has just passed under a bridge, a high bridge built to carry railroad trains across above the river from one shore to the other. And now we are coming close to a town. Our captain has signaled everyone that we are passing. Here is a ferry boat loaded with people and cars waiting for us to pass so they can go across the river to the... There is no bridge here for automobiles. There are many kinds of boats on the river. Here, for example, is a kayak, a little boat that has to be paddled. This man is having an easier time. He has rigged up a sail for his canoe. And these people have a larger sailboat. When the wind is blowing, they can take it easy and let the breeze blow them along. By now, Roger and Nancy are wondering what makes our boat go. They remember the captain told them that our engineer was down below, and here they are above the engine room. What a big piece of machinery helping make the boat go. And how smooth and powerful it seems. The engineer can stop the boat or go ahead by pulling back on these levers. Roger and Nancy again come up on deck so that they won't miss anything. Just in time, our boat is passing the Palisades, famous rocky cliffs along the Hudson near New York City. This is another freight boat carrying about the same kind of heavy goods that freight trains carry on land. And this is a motor yacht, bright and richly finished. People on it are going for a pleasure ride up the river. And now, a cabin cruiser. These people seem to be in a hurry. Far above these small boats and our large boat, Roger and Nancy now see the broad span of the George Washington Bridge. We are passing far beneath it, so we cannot see the many cars and buses hurrying to and fro across the bridge. And here, below the Washington Bridge, is a fireboat practicing. We see how far it can throw a stream of water. A fireboat is very useful for fighting fire on ships in the harbor or fires on the piers at the water's edge. The Hudson River has many boats here. This barge is quite low in the water. That's because it is filled with gasoline. It has no engine, but a chugging little tug is pushing it. Roger and Nancy must have seen something unusual. It is unusual nowadays when most boats are run by engines. This is a sailing boat, but its sails are all put away and its masts are bare while it is anchored in the river. Here is a ferry boat, much like the one we saw far back up the river. This one, too, is loaded with cars and people, coming from New Jersey to New York. This is a police patrol boat. An ocean liner has just come in, and a tug is helping it to its pier. Over here is a big freight boat, already tied up at its pier. It has had a long ocean trip from Cuba, and the men are unloading bags of sugar from it. Up ahead, a huge ocean liner is backing out into the stream. One of the largest ships afloat. Most big ocean liners have strong little tugs like these to help turn them about in the river when starting out on a voyage or when coming in. Our journey from Albany to New York is over, but for the people on this big liner, their journey across the broad Atlantic Ocean has just begun.
Wow, I think you were right. I see myself surrounded with wonders.
Yeah, see, that's the big coral reef. Isn't it beautiful? Supports so much diverse kind of life. Look at all the colors of the fish swimming around. It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Wow.
Look, we found Nemo.
There he goes.
Hey, wait just a minute. How are you breathing? Where is your suit?
Oh, well, you see, I died a long time ago, and I'm just a ghoul who hangs around watching movies.
Ghoul? You mean a dead corpse? Oh, I'm out of here.
You know, it's a little surprising that in 96 episodes doing this, nobody has ever had that reaction. It seems like it would have come up at some point. But the deep sea diver was correct. Wonders abound down here on the seabed, and I think if I journey a little deeper down, we might find even stranger adventures await us. So let's check it out. I'm just gonna fasten some shackles onto my ankles and let my dead weight do its work and drift further down to the bottom of the sea. Join me.
Dies, the sea washes it away, leaving only the worm skeleton. Most corals lose their color when dead, but they are still ornamental, for they retain their beauty of form. Studded over the whole surface are innumerable tiny holes in which the coral polyps lived. Some corals are soft and seem to have no skeletal environment. To peer down the water world is like flying in a plane above a city. The only way to see the people is to... An octopus is not a slimy horror, but a swift, colorful creature which moves with effortless ease as it slides smoothly down to its lair beneath the stones. Along the edge of the reef, fish of all sizes, shapes, and colors congregate. Strangely enough, though they're timid in the shallow waters of the lagoon and dart away when approached, if you meet them in the deeper water, they pay very little attention to the stranger in their midst and carry on with their normal activities. Although some of the fish in the tropic seas are similar to those of colder waters, there's also an amazing variety of small, brilliantly colored fish which are peculiar to warm seas and coral reefs. The coral garden beneath the sea is breathtaking in its exquisite beauty. Fragile corals grow to perfection, sheltered from the force of the waves. Even the worms in these undersea gardens are things of beauty. Nature sets us many a riddle. Why should beauty be lavished upon creatures which would appear to have no need or use for colorful adornments? In this submarine world of wonder, beauty peeps out in unexpected places. From a piece of dead coral, a lovely flower bursts into bloom. But that blossom is but another worm, a sapulid, which makes a tubular home in the coral, from which it spreads out its flower-like gills as a net to catch food and oxygen. But here is wonder upon wonder, a sea slug. How inadequate a name for a creature such as this. It could more aptly be named the ballerina of the sea. Its graceful movements are reminiscent of the swirling skirts of a dancer. Science has named this sea slug nudibranch, a word meaning naked gills, for its filmy breathing organs are not placed inside the body like those of most other animals, but are carried outside the body. The gills can be seen growing on the back of this unusual slug. The feather starfish prefers the deeper waters. It belongs to a very ancient family, which, fossil remains show, was abundant in the seas millions of years ago, long before man on Earth, Unlike most starfish, it can move swiftly. Many shellfish, which at the beginning of their lives swim free in the ocean, settle down, while still babies, on some convenient stone to which they attach themselves for life. But the lima is a wanderer and remains unattached. It swims through the water by two shells, keeping its balance with the aid of the long tentacles. The lima cannot close its shells completely, for even when closely packed, the tentacles will not fit inside. Whilst many of the tropical fish are more colorful than the reefs they live amidst, the more somber fish throw into relief the soft pastel shades of the corals. This quaint little fellow is called the box fish because its bones are built like a little box outside the flesh. Scenes beneath tropic waters have the ever-changing charm of a kaleidoscope, as brilliantly colored varied shapes glide into view. The magnificent king snapper is often called the government brim because of the broad arrow emblazoned in red across its silvery scales. The most beautiful fish of the coral reef is surely the butterfly cod. Its fins are like wings of gauze, and like the tail, so fine in texture as to be almost transparent. This coy behavior is only a pose. Actually, it's as vain as a peacock and enjoys an opportunity to flaunt its beauty. But don't be misled by the delicate beauty of the butterfly cod. Remember, before you take any liberties with this dainty dweller in the deep, that beauty is but skin deep. Beneath those colorful, fluttering draperies are sharp spines, loaded with a poison which burns with an agonizing pain like liquid fire. The butterfly cod is a slow swimmer, and if it did not have this potent means of defense, the coral reefs would soon lose one of their loveliest inhabitants. There's a big fish here. Can you see it? Let's take a closer look. See its eye and the moving gills. Now can you see it? Unlike the butterfly cod, it's a master of camouflage, relying upon invisibility not only as a means of protection, but to assist in seizing its unsuspecting prey. In the quiet of the undersea's world, danger lurks in strange forms. That harmless-looking growth on the stone is a killer, a giant sea anemone. An unwary fish has brushed against the tentacles and been paralyzed by a battery of stinging cells before being engulfed by the hungry mouth hidden beneath the tentacles. Despite the deadly power of the anemone's stings, there's an amazing friendship in it and a little fish called Percula. Should Percula be frightened by a larger fish, the little fellow will dash for safety right in among the stinging tentacles, where it is never stung nor eaten. In fact, when badly frightened, Percula goes right inside the anemone's mouth and hides in the stomach of the anemone until the coast is clear again. Another fish, Amphiprion, enjoys the same privileges. In return for the anemone's protection, these fish attract the attention of other fish, which, expecting to catch a tasty meal, make a dash for the little fish, which immediately disappear among the tentacles, leaving the pursuer to be stung and perhaps eaten by the anemone. The hermit crab depends for its safety upon finding the empty shell of a dead univalve. Although the crab's back, head, and nippers are heavily armored, it has a very tender tail with a thin, sensitive skin. As the crab grows, it must continually seek a larger shell with a more comfortable sitting room. In a flash, it tucks its tender tail into safety. Over goes the shell, and away it scuttles, ready to take on all comers. At low tide, there is no need for diving gear to see many marvels in the shallow lagoons, which are the happy hunting grounds for shell collectors. Many creatures seek shelter beneath the rocks. The flesh of the mutton fish is relished by a number of reef inhabitants, and since it has only a small shell, it is much happier under cover. Dropped back into the water, without any waste of time, it makes for shelter beneath the nearest stone. The handsome tiger cowrie, however, builds a remarkably strong shell and crawls slowly through the coral pools with the ponderous invulnerability of an armored tank. If disturbed, it immediately withdraws into the snug shelter of its shell and waits patiently within its well-designed fortress until the enemy departs. In the mating season, turtles congregate in large numbers around some of the coral islands. In far-off prehistoric times, turtles were land animals which deserted the land to make their homes in the sea. But nature insists that at nesting time they leave their ancient past and return to the land to make their nests. During the late afternoon, they come in close to the beaches, awaiting the coming of night, for their nest-making operations are carried out in the darkness. Green turtles weigh hundreds of pounds. They're the main ingredient of the famous turtle soup. These tracks leading up from the beach indicate that the turtles have already commenced nesting. The little holes are made in the center of the track by the turtle's tail and tell the turtle has gone up the beach to lay, whereas going back to the sea after completing its nest, the tail drags in the sand and makes a long furrow. As night came, taking cameras and powerful lights, we set off in search of a turtle making its nest. Shortly after midnight, we found a turtle just commencing work. With powerful thrusts of her front flippers, she digs a depression well above the reach of the highest tides. Then commences one of the wonders of nature. With her hind flippers, she digs a neat pit, nearly a foot in diameter. Although in complete darkness, this clumsy creature works with delicate precision. Deftly, she lifts each flipper full of sand and places it carefully down alongside the hole. Then, with a quick movement of her flipper, she expertly flicks it away before digging down again. So neatly is the operation carried out that hardly a grain of sand falls back into the pit. Once the egg-laying commences, if her flippers are handled very gently, she makes no objection, but allows them to be drawn apart so we may see the eggs dropping steadily into the pit. The dawn came while the turtle was still at work. Usually she completes her nest before dawn, but the glare of our lamps had upset her timetable, and every few minutes she'd ceased work until the lights were switched off. Even under normal conditions, the whole operation of nest making and egg laying takes several hours to complete.
she'd laid nearly 200 eggs. There's a fortune waiting for the man who can cross a turtle with a hen. The sand is now raked and smoothed over the eggs until all signs of the pit are obliterated. Her slow movements show how weary she is. Although once land animals, countless centuries of life in the sea make the turtle's brief visits to the land something of an ordeal. She completes the nest by throwing sand in all directions, making it impossible to tell just where the eggs were laid. Once its eggs are laid, the turtle has no further interest in them. She returns to the sea, leaving the eggs to hatch in the sand, warmed by the tropic sun. The natives enjoy a meal of turtle eggs and have devised a simple yet efficient method of finding them. The tracks up the beach show that a turtle has gone up to make her nest. It will have been dug just where the track ends at the top of the beach. A spear is driven into the sand, probing the whole area of the nest. Eventually, the spear is withdrawn, sticky, and with sand adhering to it. That stickiness means that the spear has pierced a turtle's egg. Digging down into the sand at the spot from where the spear was withdrawn soon opens up the egg pit, about a foot or so beneath the surface. When the turtle filled the pit in, the kneading and packing with her hind flippers caused the sand to filter in between the eggs, and they are now closely packed and supported by the warm sand. Since the tracks leading to the nest had not been washed away by high tides, these eggs will be fresh, as the nest must have only been made a few hours ago. If thrown upon the sand, turtle eggs bounce like a rubber ball. This is an ordinary hen's egg. Now, a turtle's egg. Here is the explanation of the bouncing egg. The shell has no limy coating, but a tough parchment-like skin. It must be torn, not broken open. Although the yolks of the two eggs are similar, the whites are different, that of the turtle being a stiffer, jelly-like substance. There's a very marked difference, however, when the eggs are cooked. Whilst the white of the hen's egg sets very quickly, the white of the turtle's egg will not set. It remains a slimy jelly. Most people prefer to eat only the yolks, which are quite palatable. The eggs left in the nest have commenced developing, and the microscope reveals an embryo turtle 2 weeks old. At 6 weeks, it is still small, but growing rapidly. At approximately 9 weeks, the baby turtles dig their way up through the sand, and out they come. The time of hatching varies. If the nest was made where the hot sun beats down all day, the eggs hatch out earlier, whilst if in the shade, they may not hatch out until 2 or 3 weeks later. Although the baby turtles have never seen the sea, without any hesitation, they scramble away in the right direction. The call of the sea is strong within them, and they waste no time in answering that call. Despite the baby turtle's energy and self-reliance, it is still but a tiny creature. And yet, should it survive the perils that await it, it will one day be a huge creature, weighing hundreds of pounds. Unlike the parent, which is helpless when turned on its back, the baby turtle quickly flips over and makes for the sea. The shell at this age is still flexible, and it will be some time before it becomes a hard and bony armor like that of the adult. With the sea in sight, the babies make a frantic spurt down the beach. Although the mother turtle lays so many eggs, only a small percentage lives.
Whoa! We're sinking down into the deeper depths here. The water's getting dark and murky, and I feel a strange heaviness. Depending on how intense I decide to get with the editing, you might notice a funhouse effect. Certainly I'm feeling strange. Things are weighing down on me. If they were heavy on my head up above, the cares of the world perhaps were pressing down, but now it is tenfold, and the water is pressing in around me. I'm just really feeling the pressure now.
Gauntly, what are you doing out there?
Oh my gosh, a watercraft, a submersible of some kind, emitting a familiar voice. Who is that over there?
Why, it's the Blizzard Wizard, of course. And I know a thing or two about water and ice, but ice is water, and you gotta know that that is not safe.
What's not safe?
The pressure.
Oh,
the water of all the water.
Oh my gosh, well, I was starting to notice that. So here, is there a way I can come aboard your craft?
Sure.
All right, well, I'll make my way over there. And as I board the submarine, you can check out this short film. It's called Free and Easy, and I think it'll tell us a little bit about the effects of water pressure. Enjoy. Here I come.
People who live in glass houses can't keep secrets. But a goldfish doesn't seem to care that his life is an open book, that his days are spent in a glare of publicity. With fish below the ocean, it used to be a different matter. Deep in the ocean, a fish could feel safe from prying eyes. And now all that's been changed by underwater photography. Today, even sea monsters are standing in line to have their pictures taken. In night black waters never warmed by the sun is a world of fantastic life. Here, for example, is the rosy feathered starfish dancing jitterbug of the ocean floor. Another queer creature dangles little fishing lines from his body to attract and to catch smaller bits of submarine life. The beautiful girdle of Venus is almost completely transparent. Many of these deep-sea citizens have never before been seen in their natural form because when they are taken suddenly to the surface, they explode. The reason for this is that the fish have built up tremendous pressure inside to balance the pressure of the water outside. This outside pressure is, of course, due to the weight of water above. 2,000 feet down, the fish have to sustain a force of almost 1,000 pounds on each square inch of their skin. The deeper the water, the higher the pressure. A fish would have to resist a water pressure of more than 7 tons on each square inch in order to live 6 miles down in the deepest part of the ocean. Just imagine holding 2 elephants on one finger. Suppose we were to live on the bottom of an ocean. How would we feel under pressure? Let's ask someone who actually does live 24 hours a day, every day of the year, right down on the ocean floor. Let's ask this man here. He ought to be able to tell us. Hey, mister, how does it feel down there at the bottom of the ocean?
Bottom of the ocean? Say, are you feeling all right? What ocean?
Why, the ocean of air. The one we're at the bottom of right now. Look up. What do you see?
Well, I see just air.
You see air. What does it look like?
Well, it's just... Well, it's blue.
Sorry, but it isn't. If you were up there far enough, the sky would be black all around you. Fact is, you can't see air at all. That blueness you see is caused by dust particles floating high in the air. The ocean of air goes up at least 50 miles and may go even higher. And all that air presses down on us just like water in the ocean presses down on the fish. Yes, mister, we are all living at the bottom of an ocean of air at least 50 miles deep. There's lots and lots of air, and a good thing, too, because where would we be without it?
We'd be in a vacuum. That's where we'd be. I got you that time.
All right. What is a vacuum?
That's simple. A vacuum's the stuff that runs these windshield wipers.
Oh, it is it? Well, just how does it do it?
Why,
Aha! Try again. What is a vacuum?
well, I guess it's just nothing.
If that's the case, then how can nothing run those windshield wipers?
Well, you tell me.
All right, I will. It's air pressure that runs those windshield wipers. The vacuum is a control, a way of putting the air pressure all around us to work. How do you suppose, for instance, that you breathe?
Well, I just pull the air into my lungs. It's simple once you learn the trick. I've known how ever since I was a baby.
Sorry, but you're on the wrong track again. You really use the same principle that makes the engine in your car breathe.
Makes my car breathe.
Sure, your car uses vacuum control to make the normal air pressure all around force the air and gasoline into the carburetor and the engine. This is how it works. Each of the 6 cylinders in your engine acts as a pump, just as your chest muscles do. When a piston in the engine moves down, it makes more space inside the cylinder. A little smoke will show how the air rushes in to fill that empty space, with all the weight of the ocean of air behind it. So that's the way you and your car breathe. We can see another result of this pressure around us, about 15 pounds on each square inch, if we put a toy balloon inside a jar. We can add a little smoke to make the movement of the air in the jar visible. Now, if we connect the jar to the vacuum inside the engine, we can take most of the air out of the jar. That takes the pressure away from the outside of the balloon. Then the air inside the balloon expands and makes the balloon bigger. Remember, the fish would explode if they were taken up where the pressure is low. Now, here's a way we can get this air pressure all around us, squeezing in from every direction with a force of 15 pounds on every square inch to do work for us. We can connect a small chamber to the engine vacuum. Inside the chamber, dividing it into 2 sections, is a sliding plunger. A little valve can control the action so that we get a vacuum on one side of the plunger and normal pressure on the other side. Again, smoke will show how it works. When we move the valve a little bit, we apply the engine vacuum to one side of the plunger. The normal air pressure in the other side of the chamber will give the plunger a strong push. We can reverse the effect to get a strong push in the opposite direction by simply moving the valve to apply the vacuum to the other side of the chamber. Notice how the smoke shows the air moving in and out as the vacuum changes sides. And notice that almost no effort at all is required to move the valve. The air does all the pushing. The plunger follows the slightest movement of the valve so that we get exact control of the air pressure. Now let's get practical and connect one of these vacuum chambers and plungers to the gear shifting mechanism of a motor car. Then we can operate the valve control with the gear shift lever. Of course, by using more effort, we could shift gears without the help of this control. But by letting air pressure do 80% of the work of shifting gears for us, we leave just enough for ourselves to get the feel of what we're doing.
So that's why this jigger works so easy.
You puzzled it out for yourself. And one thing you can always depend on, there's always air around you, pressure that you don't have to pay for or carry around with you. Now you have to keep in mind the fact that getting this principle to work for you requires a difference in the pressures involved. And that brings up the subject of relativity, simply a question of applied dynamics and mechanics.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't get it.
So, hey, how did you get into deep sea exploration anyway?
Well, you know, I like water and ice, and mostly ice. And there's not a lot of movies about ice, but there's one that prominently features ice called Titanic. James Cameron is a very smart man, made a great movie, and James Cameron is very into deep sea diving and ice. So I figured maybe a fellow ice enjoyer might also be into good things. So I decided to try out deep sea diving.
And how are you feeling about it so far?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate that you were here to scoop me up. You're in this steampunk submarine. I'm definitely a fan.
Me too. So without further ado, we're going to go deeper.
Oh, all right. Let's do it.
What's that? There's something out there
Oh my gosh.
in the abyss.
Can you get us any closer?
I'm afraid not. I'm pushing it to its limits.
Oh,
Can't get
man.
any closer.
Well then, do me this one favor. Shoot me out one of your torpedo tubes.
All right. I think we can do that.
Let's go. Whoa! Now you, sir, are very large. Oh man, I'm not quite making that out. I'll switch on the universal translator Freak Slice has been working on. What are you doing down here at the bottom of the ocean? Oh my God, that is very sinister. What are your plans for the weekend? Goodness, that's a little too eldritch and non-Euclidean for my taste. I think I'm going to head topside, where the horror is not so ancient, it's a little more topical. Oh, look, there goes a whale. I'm relying on you, Miss Dorica. Help me out of here. Give me a ride. Okay, here we go! Whoa!
There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was the Billy O.T. The winds blew hard, her bow dipped down, a blow my bully boys blow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. She had not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Before the boat had hit the water, the whale's tail came up and caught her. All hands to the side harpooned and fought her when she died below. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. No line was cut, no whale was freed. The captain's mind was not on greed, but he belonged to the whaleman's creed. She took that ship in tow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on, the line's not cut and the whale's not gone. The Wellerman makes his regular call to encourage the captain, crew, and all. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
And there we have it, another show in the bag, in the can, in the net, as the case may be. And you know what? Sometimes I get down on myself and I question whether Gauntly is really making a meaningful contribution to the field of television, whether it's really art. But then I go to the tape and really look at what we've done here, and I have no complaints. I am living my dreams. I don't know if this looks good on a resume. I don't know if it counts for a whole lot in the big bean counter hill of life. But gosh darn it, I have got a full-size octopus here, dangling all about, all the tentacled goodness you could want. And I am living in the moment, living my best life, as gauntly as it could possibly be. And I think that is worth something. So we bid you adieu, we say goodbye, and as always we say, pleasant nightmares. Bye everybody. Join us again next time.